So yeah, last session we had heard about Gautam Rishi, right? Gautam Rishi and Ahilya, how Gautam Rishi's heritage, hermitage was restored, right? If you remember, Gautam Rishi's hermitage was restored and Ahilya was brought back to life. Because of a curse, she had turned into a stone. Yeah. So now, while they are moving, now they are with Vishvamitra, right? Rama and Lakshmana are with Vishvamitra. Can you all sit in a circle because I can't have a look. I can't see. Come sit here, please go ahead.
Then I want you to write.
So now Ram and Lakshman with Vishvamitra, they are on foot, right? They are going, and now they pass by Mithila. This Mithila is a beautiful city, and Mithila is a place where Janak Maharaj is ruling, right? And he has a beautiful daughter called Sita. You all know this background. So now they are entering into the city. Now we have to see that the city is really, really beautiful and very, very opulent. Very, very opulent city. And how do we know it is so opulent? I will give you a description and you will understand that the city was really, really opulent. Very, very wealthy place, okay? It had broad, roads and wide roads. Not potholes that we see in Gurgaon.
Roads.
Yeah, very broad roads, and he could, when they were walking past, they could see these golden domes of temples, and not 1, 2, 5, 10, but innumerable golden domes of temples, and there were these mansions made of white stone. The most expensive stone which I could relate to was like, when this Taj Mahal is made of white stone, right? And we know how much money, in those days, so many years ago, 13 lakhs, more than 13 lakhs was spent on Taj Mahal. So we can understand the heritage of our country, the heritage of India, how wealthy our country was, and that is why India used to be called Sone ki Chidiya. So we should be proud of our Vedic culture and our Indian culture, and the roads were full of these horse-drawn chariots. Like if you see a 1947 documentary, you will still see horse-drawn chariots, because that time the cars were not. There were not too many cars. Cars were invented by Ford, but there were not too many cars, and you would see the royal ambassador on the streets, but very few, only the royal people had cars, right? Not like ordinary people never had cars, right? So there were these horse-drawn chariots and graceful elephants on the road, and they were swaying with their mahouts on top, and they were walking, they were going by, and there were these passerbys, and then on the sides of the road were these people who had their small wares, where they were selling their some veshas, like some merchants, they were selling these precious jewels, and those jewels were all displayed, and they were selling those jewels, and it used to look as if there's a rainbow being displayed in front of you, because the jewels have many different shades, right? Rubies are red, sapphire is a different color, emerald is a different color. So you could, when it is displayed in front of you, such valuable jewels, you could make out that yes, the kingdom is really rich. And so they were passing by, and when they were passing by, because they were so illustrious looking, people who were there would greet them. Like if we pass by on the road, nobody will greet us, right? Unless we know somebody. But that was the culture. People were very friendly, very adjusting. They would talk to each other, like how we came to your house yesterday without informing you. That was our culture. People would know each other in the neighborhood. Not like what we are imbibing right now with the Western culture, not to be too friendly, too stuck with your social gadgets, with your social media. Everybody is on the social media. Nobody has the time to even look at each other. Forget about conversation, So when they were going around like this, obviously the news spread that this Vishvamitra sage, who himself is a great personality, he is being accompanied by two of his students, right? And this news spread and it reached Janak Maharaj, who was the ruler of Mithila. So then when the news reached, then Janak Maharaj got to know. So he sent his ministers. He sent his ministers to come and greet Vishvamitra and escort him to his palace. Okay. So when Vishvamitra reached Janak Maharaj's palace, Janak Maharaj himself got up from his throne and he went and fetched water to wash the lotus feet of a guru, a sage. When such a great personality comes to your house, this is the Vaishnav etiquette. This is the etiquette that you have to follow. So he himself, first he made him sit on golden seats. So you see the opulence of King Janaka Maharaj. Did he wash his feet also? Yes, and then he washed the feet of... Yes, he washed the feet of Vishvamitra with his own hands and made them sit. And then a sumptuous meal was already being cooked for them. And they were given these golden seats and silver, silken rugs to sit on. And when you sit on the floor, the culture was to sit on the floor, not on a table or a chair. You sit on the floor. They were given silk rugs and ivory tables were placed upon in front of them. Tables made of the tusks of elephants. So ivory tables were placed in front, and then there was a huge plate made up of gold. And the entire meal, which was like many things, everything under the roof that you can think of, was offered to them as prasad. And then they had prasad, they felt rested, they felt restored because they were on a big journey, on a long journey, which we've seen in the previous sessions, how they crossed the river and they came and then they went to Gautam Rishi's hermitage. So all this was happening, and then Janak Maharaj is very inquisitive to know who are these two people who is being accompanied by Vishvamitra, because they had so much effulgence, everybody wants to know, like everybody wanted to know who is this new person in our class. So they also, Janak Maharaj and all the ministers and all the priests and all the counselors of Janak Maharaj wanted to know the background of these two beautiful young boys.
Janak Maharaj and Dashrath Maharaj were friends, and he was the prince, no? Ram was the prince.
Yeah.
That time he was not in Varnvas. So Janak Maharaj and Dashrath Maharaj were friends. So how did he not know Ram?
But unless somebody tells me that you are Nitai Prabhu's son, how will I know? They have not. Janak Maharaj was invited for the Putra Kameshti Yagya by Dashrath Maharaj, because Janak Maharaj and Dashrath Maharaj were friends. But somehow or the other, Janak Maharaj could not go. So Janak Maharaj hadn't seen the 4 beautiful sons of Dashrath Maharaj. He knew that he had done this fire sacrifice, and through the fire sacrifice he had begotten 4 sons, but he had never seen them. So I cannot just say, okay, you are Ram, okay, you are who. You need an introduction, right? Like if you never know me, I gave an introduction of Agni, right? How would you know otherwise?
तो कभी और नहीं मिला?
नहीं, ये पहली बार उनको देख रहे थे. Okay, so Janak Maharaj said, they look like tigers, and their beauty and their grace is actually their rival. Their beauty is like a rival to the gods also. They're so beautiful that they're even more beautiful than the gods and the demigods. So who are these personalities? Janak Maharaj is very curious to know. Okay, so then Janak Maharaj, very nicely, very humbly, is asking Vishvamitra that please could you tell me, could you give me a description, could you give me an introduction to these great personalities who are with you? So then Vishvamitra introduced Ram and Lakshmana, and he also told about the extraordinary feats that Ram has just accomplished. Just now Ram had killed a demoness called Taraka, and Marich, and who was the other? Subahu, both the sons of Taraka. And so Marich, actually he didn't kill Marich, but he shot an arrow at Marich, and Marich went and landed on Lanka that far. He crossed the river and he landed there. Can you imagine the bal, the strength of Lord Ram? And Taraka was such a demoness, nobody could kill her. Nobody had, even Vishvamitra said that, she really disturbs me. I really need somebody who has a lot of prowess, who can kill this person, this demoness. So when Vishvamitra mentioned all this about Ramchandra, then Janak Maharaj was like full in awe and respect for such a young person like Ramchandra. And then he also mentioned about how Rama had released Ahilya from the curse. So when he narrated the entire description of how Ram, he entered into the hermitage of Gautam Rishi, and how he placed his foot on Ahilya, and Ahilya immediately from stone, she turned to a beautiful woman. The moment he recited this entire, pastime, there was somebody in the audience. His name was Satananda. Satananda is a priest of Janak Maharaj, right? He's the main priest. And when he heard this, he jumped up in joy. You know why? Why? What do you think? Why did he jump up in joy when he heard that Ahilya came back to life? Any guesses?
Because he is his husband.
Husband is Gautam Rishi.
Is he father?
Auntie is right. Auntie has the answer. We should listen from Auntie.
He's Ahilya's son.
Yes, he's Ahilya's son. Satananda is Ahilya's son, and he was very happy because now, because Ahilya is back as a human, now the whole ashram is restored. Now all the sacrifices and all the yajnas can again happen, and it is back to prosperity. Okay, so now they are very happy, but now the dusk is falling, it's getting darker outside. Now they need rest, and Janak Maharaj actually understands all these things. He doesn't bother his guests so much ki mujhe abhi batao, mujhe ye batao, wo batao. He says, okay, it is almost night time now, you all need rest, please have some rest, and we will again start our conversation from next day, from tomorrow. So next day, when and Janak Maharaj meanwhile obviously gets to know that these are the sons of Dashrath Maharaj, and as we mentioned earlier, that he knows who Dashrath Maharaj is, he knows the glories of Dashrath's dynasty, the solar dynasty, and he's very happy that these two boys, these two young men have come at the right time, because Janak Maharaj is doing this beautiful yajna, and he wants his beautiful daughter Sita to get married, and he has this vow, promise that he has told everyone, which he will reveal the next day. So he gets to know, okay, these are prominent guests in my palace, and then they go for rest, and the next day when they come back, again they sit together, and then Vishvamitra tells Janak Maharaj that why we came all the way to Mithila. We came all the way to Mithila to see that beautiful, illustrious bow of Shiva that you have. So Janak Maharaj was very happy. So he said, yes, definitely, I will show you that bow. But before that, I'm going to tell you the history of the bow. Anything, how do you cherish something? How do you understand the value of something unless somebody tells you the history of that thing, right? How do we cherish our culture? Because when we read it through our history books, when we read it through these conversations, through scriptures, through Mahabharata, through Ramayana, through Bhagavatam, then we get to know, oh my God, my culture is so strong. And why am I trying to unnecessarily follow the Western culture when my culture is so strong? You know? So you only get to know when you read, when you listen. Okay? So Janak Maharaj is also now going to recite this beautiful pastime of how this bow of Shiva, it belongs to Shiva, so it should be with Shiva. How come this bow is residing in Mithila with Janak Maharaj in his palace? So the history goes back long time ago. Shiva was the one who possessed this bow. And the name of this bow is Pinaka. And this bow is not made with an ordinary metal, but it is made by the horn of a demon, Mura. We'll go back to that story later, but this is a bow which is made of the horns of a demon. Can you imagine? So, horn. It's a horn. Okay. Yeah. So Shiva has fought a lot of battles with this bow. So once upon a time, there was a sacrifice going on, and the demigods were doing this fire sacrifice. And whenever you do a fire sacrifice, there's some kind of nectar or some kind of something that comes out of that sacrifice. Okay. So it's called the share of the sacrifice, right? That share, then the demigods and the gods, they distribute among themselves. This is usually what happens. Like for example, Dashrath Maharaj also, he did this yagya, right? He did this fire sacrifice, and then fire Purusha, Yagya Purusha came out with a bowl of ghee, sweet rice, right? And that was the share of the yagya. So again, going back to the sacrifice, the share of the sacrifice was distributed, but nobody gave the share to Shiva. So when Shiva got to know about this, he became really angry. And we know what Shiva does. When he becomes angry, he does a Tandav dance, and the whole destruction comes about. So then the demigods became really scared, because if you actually make Shiva angry, anything can happen, right? So they started pacifying Shiva. So Shiva came back, because he's Ashutosh. He becomes really pacified very soon, right? So he really pacified, and he kind of forgave the demigods for their faults. And what did he do instead? He gave that bow as a gift to the gods, demigods. So thus now the bow resides with the celestial gods, right? It belongs to the celestial world. Got this part of the story? Now this Janak Maharaj, in his lineage, there are many ancestors. Okay, Janak Maharaj has many ancestors. One of his ancestors is Devarata. One of his ancestors is Devarata, and he was fighting on behalf of the demigods with the demons, and they won the battle. So as a reward, the demigods gave that same Pinaka bow to Devarata. Now it belongs to Devarata, and everybody in Janak Maharaj's dynasty is called Janakas. So now this bow is with the Janakas. So now Janakas have the bow. Now this bow obviously came from Devarata to the next person, to the next, to the next, to the next. Now it is residing with Janak Maharaj. And now Janak Maharaj is taking care of the...
So whoever became the king got the bow?
Yeah, because now it is with the Janakas. Okay. So they are the ones, and they actually respect and treat the bow as Shiva himself. So they worship the bow as Shiva himself. Okay. And the bow is not just like kept anywhere and everywhere, and whoever wants to play with the bow can play with the bow. Nothing like that. It has a particular place. Like our mandir, our deities have a particular place. So similarly, the bow was kept in a particular place, and it was kept in a iron chest. It was kept in an iron. It was a huge thing. Okay, it was not just this much. My hand span is only this much, but you can imagine. It was huge. It was a colossal bow, Colossal means enormous, huge. Okay.
Type of size of this one.
More than that.
More than not close.
Okay. So it was kept in an iron chest, and it was, it has these engravings. Engravings on the bow was again of gold and silver, and bells were hanging. If you're not writing, you can come here.
माताजी, I had a question. That जैसे गाय के सींग होते हैं, वो तो मेरे हाथ जितने होते हैं, तो वो इतना सा बहुत थोड़ी होएगा. इतना बड़ा सींग कैसे हो सकता है?
The demons also were huge, enormous, right? We can't just imagine the demons to be only, they were more than 6 feet. They were beyond the ceiling. They always used to touch the sky. If you read in Bhagavatam, the demons are so enormous that they almost reach the sky. Trinavat? Remember Trinavat?
Yes.
You remember Aghasur? His mouth was touching the sky and his lower jaw was touching the ground. So they were also enormous. So obviously the horn on his head was also enormous. We have to imagine these things, right? And they're all true stories. Okay? So where was I? So yeah, I was talking about the engravings. Yeah, I was describing the bow. So it had these bells, silver bells hanging from it, and the engravings on the bow actually were the pastimes of the gods. So when you actually see the bow, you can actually see all the pastimes of the gods in the heavenly planets. So it was really, really beautiful. And when they opened the chest of the bow, where the bow was kept, a glow came out of that, golden glow came out of the bow, and and it lit up the entire room. You could imagine. And then Janak Maharaj started praising the Shiva's bow, and everybody was mesmerized by it. And everybody was sitting and looking at the bow. There was silence all over. For half a second, for a few minutes, nobody spoke. And once the bow was glorified and everything, then Janak Maharaj said, once I was doing a fire sacrifice to get a successor in my lineage, because Janak Maharaj obviously, they want their successor so that after them their successor can rule, right? And when he was doing this fire sacrifice, you have to actually prepare a field, you have to prepare a place for the fire sacrifice. So he had a golden plow. So he was plowing that field so that the field could be prepared. And while he was plowing the field, he saw a small female child there.
Sita?
Yes, and then that female child was called Sita. So Janak Maharaj started describing the glories of Sita Devi and started saying that how she came about in his life and how much he loves her, almost as equivalent to his soul. So after that, he said, that is why when my daughter was a little girl, while playing, one day she lifted the bow. One day, a small child, she lifted the bow while she was playing close by. And when Janak Maharaj saw that, he realized that my daughter is not ordinary. My daughter is extraordinary. So if his daughter is so extraordinary, obviously whoever she marries has to be like that, of her same stature. The person she marries has to also be extraordinary, right? So then he came up with this idea, and he came up with this vow that whoever will be able to lift this bow and string the bow will become the husband of Sita.
String मतलब तोड़ देना.
नहीं, string मतलब you have to, in order to place an arrow, you have to string the bow, right? Otherwise you cannot use the bow, right? And it was actually in good usage. It was used by Shivji. It was not a toy, or it was not just a showpiece. One can use this bow, right? So then, what did Janak Maharaj do? Now is the interesting part, which I think the boys would love. Now Janak Maharaj, when Sita grew up, then obviously he circulated it. He kind of he told he let everybody know. All the kings got to know that whoever will be able to string the bow will be the rightful husband for Sita. So all the kings got to know this. This news spread all over. So then what happened? All the kings from different lands, they came to take part in the competition, right?
All the kings or king के बच्चे?
All the kings, all the eligible suitors for Sita came to take part. Now they couldn't even lift it. They couldn't even hold it properly because the width was so much. You have to have that grass to hold the bow, right? So they couldn't even hold the bow. They couldn't even nudge the bow an inch. So nudge means move the bow an inch also. So what to do now? So all of them got defeated like this. And they all wanted Sita to become their wife because Sita was so beautiful, right? So then they all became really jealous, and really they had a lot of envy that Janak Maharaj is trying to cheat us. If this is such an impossible thing to do, why is he doing this? Wow, right? So what did they do? They all planned up. They all gathered together and they wanted to siege Mithila, right? They wanted to attack Mithila. So they all started attacking Mithila. So Janak Maharaj, whatever resources he had, he tried to defend himself, right? But one day, all the resources finished. How can you keep on fighting, with all those allied forces, right? So then he prayed. He prayed to the gods. He said, "Gods, please help me." Then all the gods came with their armies, and they all came from the heavens and they attacked these kings from the heavens. And that's how these kings were defeated. And this entire thing happened for a year. For a year, Janak Maharaj was attacked by these kings, and then he had to defend himself with the help of the demigods. Now, this bow is kept and there's no suitable suitor. So what to do? So this is what Janak Maharaj is trying to express to Vishvamitra and to Rama and Lakshmana, that not even demigods, not even kinkars, not even Gandharvas, not even Vidyadharas, nobody can actually lift the bow. Forget about stringing the bow. Unless you lift the bow, you can't string it, you can't do anything with it. Then how will Sita get married? Will Sita remain unmarried? Will there be nobody who will become her husband? And when Sita was born, Narad Muni came and Narad Muni told Janak Maharaj that actually she is Lakshmi and her consort is Vishnu. So only her husband can only be Vishnu. So Janak Maharaj knew that Vishnu will be her husband. But where to find Vishnu? How to approach Vishnu? How will he come all the way to Mithila? Nobody knows, right? So after all this glorification, now Ram, he first bowed down to his Guru, circumambulated his Guru thrice to take his blessing, like how we first in the beginning did the Mangalacharan prayers to take the blessings of Gurus in the Parampara system. This is the Vaishnav etiquette. This is the right way to start your anything that you want to do. So before taking this whole big thing of stringing the bow, Lord Ram also did this, and then Vishvamitra nodded, gave his permission. Then he looked at Janak Maharaj. Janak Maharaj also gave his permission, and then Sita Devi was sitting at the balcony. It was like an amphitheater, and assembly is like an amphitheater. So there are people who can sit, and then there are balconies. If you go to these churches, old churches, like my school,
Radha Damodar temple, you can see beach में कीर्तन होता है, and if you go ऊपर to that rooms, there are some windows and you can see.
Yes, rightly said. So she was sitting at the balcony, and she was also gazing at Ram. So Ram gazed at Sita also. So when you gaze, you get to know, okay, she also agrees with the fact that he can go and approach the bow. So after taking permission from everyone, he rose up from his seat and he went to the bow. First he did his pranams to the bow, and then he placed his hand on the bow. And once he placed his hand, immediately he lifted the bow. And everybody was like, their breath just stopped there, then and there. People couldn't even think that this can happen, because he looks so young, and he's, all those kings who had come were much more, they were showing their muscles, and they were much they were so much egoistic and so much proud, and he's so humble, and he's so gentle, and he's so polite, and he just went there and he just placed his hand there, and he raised it, and he made it stand on the ground. And obviously there's a string that he has to attach. He put the string also. Everything happened in a second. And while he was stringing the bow, the bow, when you string the bow, it turned into a semicircle, because it has to take that semicircle, and then you have to actually place your arrow and you string it. But the moment he pressed it, it broke. It broke. So obviously the vow was fulfilled. He strung it. So once he strung the bow, then everybody started shouting, victory, victory, victory to Lord Ram. And everyone was so happy, because they were all the citizens also were eagerly waiting for Sita Devi to get married to Ram. And when they had seen Ram on the streets, as I described you, they all wished that may he marry Sita, because he was so good looking, and he had so much prowess also. People could understand that. So when he broke the bow, then everybody was very happy, and they all wanted the marriage to happen instantly, So Sita Devi came down from that balcony. Obviously Dashrath Maharaj gave her the permission, so she came down, and she was beautifully dressed in a maroonish sari with pearls and jewels and diamonds and rubies, and she was holding a beautiful golden garland in her hand, and she placed the garland. Golden, the flowers were golden in color. जैसे marigold है ना हमारा, उससे 1,000 times, million times more beautiful flowers used to be there in
Marigold is not.
Hanji. Yes.
Marigold is not beautiful at all.
No, I am just giving a very, very base example from Kali Yuga, from this age. But as Auntie said, the flowers were actually, they looked very effulgent and golden, So she placed the garland on Ram. Now, obviously, Ram's parents have to be invited for the wedding, right? So Vishvamitra told Janak Maharaj that please send an invitation to Dashrath Maharaj so that he can come with his entourage. So then Janak Maharaj sent his messengers. It took 3 days to, for the messengers to reach. And when they reached Ayodhya, Dashrath Maharaj got to know that, oh my God, Vishvamitra had come all the way, so the providence must have sent him, by God's grace he must have come, and they thought that he's just going taking the sons to just go and kill these demons. But actually Dashrath also had a desire that my sons should now get married, and Vishvamitra had fulfilled this desire. So he had so much of reverence and respect for Vishvamitra. And then he took, he took many gifts for Janak Maharaj. All his elephants and all his soldiers and everybody from Ayodhya, they, accompanied Dashrath Maharaj, and they all went for the wedding, which will take place in Mithila. It took them 5 days to reach Mithila, and when they reached Mithila, Janak Maharaj greeted them and also accepted all the gifts that Dashrath Maharaj was carrying with him. And then there was a beautiful wedding ceremony which happened, and everybody, even the demigods participated. The demigods also showered flowers from the heavens in this beautiful wedding of
Mataji.
Ram and Sita, who are none other than Vishnu and Lakshmi. Okay?
Mataji, demigods have nothing to do except showering flowers. Every time they shower flowers.
Chaitanya, please, magic it up.
Mataji, it took 3 days.